Welcome to the second installment of the debate tip series. Today I'm going to talk a bit about the importance of clarity. This is one of the most important yet overlooked aspects of becoming a good debater. I think of debate as having two primary phases: clarity seeking and argumentation. Most people debate purely in the second phase and rarely enter the first, and when they do, they don't stay there for long. My approach is the opposite. I dwell in the first state until my opponent can completely clarify their view. What you'll notice when you start doing this is that very often there isn't even a need to enter the argumentation phase because your opponent's view isn't clear enough to be argued against. Some examples of views I've encountered that crumbled just from seeking clarity would be Tom Jump's moral position, Darth Dawkins' Christian position, Perspective Philosophy's moral position, etc. In fact, some malicious interlocutors will actually intentionally use vagueness to mask the lack of a clear inference structure. A good test, by the way, for this kind of sophistry is to just explicitly request the inference structure as a syllogism. Arguing against an unclear view is like arguing against a vampire in mist form. You can never land a clear blow because your target doesn't really have a definite shape. So what you need to do is simply ask for clarity. If they can't provide it, they'll come off looking like a rambling lunatic. If they can, then you'll be able to move into the argumentation phase and start Rolodexing. There are some special cases where you don't need clarity, such as if your opponent delivers an invalid argument. In that case, having clarity about the content doesn't matter. You know what they've said is wrong in virtue of form. We'll deal more with validity in further installments of this series dealing with formal logic. So the clarity rule, as with most rules I give, should be seen as a very stable general guideline, not as inviolable. Now, oftentimes someone will offer something that they put forward as clarification, but really isn't clarification. In these instances, you just need to stay in the clarity-seeking frame. Sorry, I'm not following. Can you tell me what X means? If your opponent tries to force the dialogue forward, you need to firmly stand your ground and refuse to proceed without clarity. If you want to see an instance of me doing this particularly well, you should watch my debate with Tom Jump. I'll link that below. It's not you being unreasonable for wanting to understand what they're saying. It's them being unreasonable for expecting you to continue without knowing what the fuck they're talking about. So this video is short and sweet, but vital, and don't forget it. Become aware of the clarity frame. Anytime you don't have clarity on what's being said, enter that frame. And stay there until either they crumble or clarity is provided, at which point you can start Rolodexing. Now, I'm going to leave you guys with a clip of this being done exceptionally well by a debater called Angstrike. Now, Angstrike's someone who I've had it out with a few times, and I would say that he is the hardest person I've ever debated. So, I mean, he's a very, very high-level debater. I've made multiple errors while debating him. So you can bet that if I mess up while debating him, Perspective Philosophy is gonna get fucking annihilated. So here's a clip of Perspective trying to do his vague, wishy-washy, unclear bullshit, and Angstrike just brutalizing him by asking for clarity.
It's not. Well,
I don't see how subjectivism, if it's true, has any implications.
Well, because I would say that if subjectivism is true, then the words hold no meaning at all. In which case, that to describe yourself as vegan would be to describe yourself as nothing.
Wait, why would it have no meaning? It's not a non-cognitivist thesis.
Well, I would say that but I'm saying if subjectivism is true, then non-cognitivism is true, and if non-cognitivism is true, then
no, it's a cognitivist.
Okay, well, someone propose. If anyone would like to propose, like anything other than a descriptivist position that is cognitive, please go ahead.
I don't know what you mean.
So you can say, like, I'm happy to say that a descriptivist position can be cognitive. Like, you could describe yourself. Like, I would describe myself as feeling a certain way at a given time, but all I could was describe my mental state at a given moment, but I could not prescribe upon myself a rule. Okay. Now, if you're saying that you could prescribe a rule, let's say a system, and that is like your idea of subjectivism, I would say that that is absurd, and I will happily argue against you all.
This is just nonsense. I mean, the point
Is
is,
is it
right?
nonsense?
The point is, right, that uh, there's a ought, right, which a given agent takes to guide their action, right? And how you cash out what that ought is just going to be in subjectivist rather than objectivist terms, right? It doesn't
Okay,
follow that
I
that's.
don't.
It
Okay,
doesn't follow from that that.
but like what you mean for a subjectivist term, what I'm saying is that either the word vegan relates to an atomistic fact, which we talked about earlier, or the word vegan is empty, or the
Okay,
word
that's just
vegan,
a bunch. That's
or
just a bunch of gibberish. Let's
or
cut through the
the
gibberish.
how is that
Let's just cut.
gibberish? Explain how that is gibberish. If you
Let's
explain to
just
me,
let's just
what
cut
does the
through the
word
gibberish.
exploitation mean?
Let's just
Okay,
cut
that's
through it. Let's cut
I'm happy
through
to
it.
say.
And what you do is you show me how, given what I've described, you can generate an entailment to non-cognitivism there. Just formalize your argument.
Okay, so what are you saying? Like, as in a description of what?
I
Like,
said that there's, right, there's a moral utterance, right, which is taken to express.
you could have there. Sorry, man.
Sorry, there's a moral utterance, right, which we're taking to express a moral proposition, right, which for the agent is action guiding, right? Now, that moral proposition is cashed out in subjectivist rather than objectivist terms, right? Okay, so that's what we're starting from.
Okay, and as a
Now,
subjectivist, would you
now what
say
I'm
that?
asking you to do is formalize an argument that shows from those premises that non-cognitivism is entailed.
So, as a subjectivist, are you saying that what is good, bad, right, and wrong ultimately relates to a mental state within an individual?
Well, I assume that's what the basic idea behind subjectivism is. Right?
Okay, cool. And for our ability to understand that mental state, there must be, a concept within that. So, like, whether I, approve or disapprove of something ultimately is being promoted here. Either it is something desirable or it isn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. And how do I know whether
That's
desire?
irrelevant. I'm not asking you a
How do
question
you?
about epistemology, right?
Oh, you can't say that there is no epistemology
Sorry, I'm
in
not asking
ethics.
you
You
a
have to be
question about
absolutely.
epistemology. Yeah, you're not understanding what's being demanded of you, right? You're making the claim that moral subjectivism entails non-cognitivism. I'm asking you to formalize an argument that establishes it, because when I ask you to explain how it does that, you just respond with
Because
gibberish,
what
right?
I'm
Because
saying,
you don't actually know anything about
how does
metaethics.
that or do I not? Okay,
You
but
don't
the
know
thing is, I
anything
mean, I
about
do. I mean,
metaethics
I'm gonna
or
just pass some answers
philosophy.
here.
Just a
Right.
minute. Just a minute. You don't know anything about
Well, this
metaethics.
is this is
Just a
this is
minute.
well
Just a
poisoning. This
minute.
is well
Just a minute.
poisoning.
Just
This
a
is well
minute.
poisoning.
Just a
No, I'm
minute.
not going to be. I'm not going
Just
to
a
be
minute.
polite while you are being rude.
Is there an
Well,
admin who's going to
if
shut
like
this fucker up while I'm
look at it like
talking?
this: if you're
Okay,
going to be, if you're
you're
going to,
an
well,
idiot,
no,
right?
you see, that's
I'm
ad
asking
hominem.
you to
You see,
formalize your
that's just being
argument,
stupid, isn't it?
right?
You
I'm not
see,
asking you to
like I'm not
talk
going to
about
be.
epistemology, right? Only an idiot is going to
Oh,
talk about
Christ!
epistemology
If
when
you
you're
don't,
being asked to formalize an argument,
either,
right, that establishes
for
your
fuck's sake, man,
thesis,
do you not
right?
understand
So,
how other fields of philosophy
so what I'm
would
asking you to
entail others?
do,
Like, I think, are
okay,
you stupid to
let's
ask this, man?
start let's start with the first
So
premise
you'd have to
of your
be
argument.
absolutely
What's the
thick
first
to
premise?
not realize
What's
that
the first
something
premise of
that
your argument?
metaethics has anything to
Okay,
do with that
is there an
which
admin here?
actually relates to reality and how we
Sorry, is
understand it,
there an
like
admin here?
ontology, any of that you don't actually understand. I mean,
Is there an
like,
admin here?
have you read any philosophy? Have you read any
Okay,
philosophy?
he's just yeah. Yeah, all right. So let's start. What I want the admins to do is ask this idiot to tell us the first
Look,
premise
mate,
of his
right,
argument. Don't
look, if you're
overtalk
gonna
me.
be, no, if
Don't
you're gonna be, wait,
overtalk me.
no, if you're
Don't
gonna be a fucking
overtalk
cunt,
me.
no,
Don't overtalk me. Okay. Will an admin please ask this person to give? Okay. I mean, he couldn't even understand what it was to give an argument for his claim.